Huddle Up Podcast is sponsored by Arena Eats. Log on to the website arenaeats.app, that's arenaeats.app, for the ultimate fan experience. At your favorite sports venue, Arena Eats mobile app, pre-order, express pickup, and in-seat delivery. How do you place your order?
Hey, everyone in, let's go. Huddle up on 3. 1, 2, 3, huddle up.
No one, and I mean no one, comes into our house and pushes us around. This is your game now, gentlemen.
Russian 3, dropping 8. Uyangalele steps up, loads and throws. It's caught. It's pitched backwards, up in the air. It's on the ground, still in Clemson's hands. And now it is down. It is over. And the Irish have knocked off number 1 Clemson.
Fans on their feet. Rally towels are being waved. Brad Lidge stretches. The 0-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. Struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Eller for the draw. And as the puck drops, the words that DC fans have been waiting to hear since 1974, the Washington Capitals are the 2018 Stanley Cup champions.
And now, welcome everyone to the Huddle Up Podcast.
We're not going to be fucking sucked this year. We're the Stanley Cup champions. Yeah!
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Huddle Up Podcast. We are live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We are glad to be back with you on a Tuesday evening. Sean and Jim with you. And we're going to be talking to you for the next hour or so, talking sports. Obviously, looking back at this past weekend, looking ahead to next season, the NHL having some of their own issues right now. We'll get into all of it. But first, Sean, how we doing this week, man?
Well, you know, we're doing. Threw a bunch at the Chiefs and didn't stick. So, you know, we got that to lament a little bit. But from what I understand of the folks down here, there was a game this weekend, and folks are pretty excited down here.
I would imagine that they are pretty happy. The rest of us, I think, fairly sad that we have now once again reached the end of the football season. So let's just take a moment here. That we are, of course, without our weekend pigskin.
Indeed.
Until August.
Yeah, nothing going. But cold snap's gone. It's warm again down here. Folks have a championship under their shoulders. You know, they're pretty fired up. Just waiting for the sports talk to get even more annoying. Tampa Bay being printed everywhere.
I was gonna say that's got to be the resounding statement.
Although I am getting a little tired of them counting American League champions and I thought the Rowdies had won the whole thing. Everything they show at them says like Eastern something champions, Eastern Conference, Eastern Division. I'm like, did they actually? Are you guys counting those? You counting this the divisional round, the conference championship, so to speak? You think Kansas City's excited because their conference?
Yeah. What was that? What was that the other year? The Nashville Predators put up a a president's was it a president's trophy banner, or I don't know, there was some sort of banner the Nashville Predators raised that was basically just like, it was laughable because they were basically just like celebrating.
Well, it's a fairly new franchise. They don't have a lot of banners in the rafters. Looking for something to decorate with. I don't know. I feel it's more of one of those where maybe you put like one with years. You put up like conference champions or something like that. I don't know, but I guess if you want to put up a most wins or a president's trophy banner that just has like a small year on it with room for more years as you get more, maybe you go that route. I don't know. You didn't win,
right? It's a little much, but like you said,
but hey, 2 out of 3 major sports.
And then, that's the thing, like for Tampa is I mean,
and technically baseball's probably the next one around. So, I mean, you could potentially have three in a row. I don't know how that's going to work out. I guess hockey might come around first.
Yeah, but even still, I mean, you if you have 4 major sports in the U.S. and half your teams in your city are reigning champions, it's not a lot of leagues.
Half are in the Bay down here, the other half in Los Angeles. So the rest of the country
you can't make a cool rhyme like Champa Bay with Los Angeles, I guess.
Not really. They would have done it already because this isn't the first time.
Right, and I guess that's the other big difference.
Well, if it's 2, it could be Dos Angeles.
Oh, there you go.
Stick with the Spanish,
Yeah.
Dos Angeles.
That's a close.
Yeah, trademark that.
There you go. Yeah, seriously.
Of course, that means they're only ever shooting for 2. Because you get 3. You go Trace Angeles.
It would just mean that they're currently the Dos champions. It doesn't have to be permanent. Doesn't mean it's all you're aiming for.
By the way, I hope they don't win another one.
Well, I hope Tampa doesn't either, Sean. I mean, I'm not a fan of a Tampa team. I mean, I was.
Yeah, I don't know how the Rays. I mean, you never know with the Rays. They spend a lot of money on like international talent. They use their dollars real well, for value guys. But they had some pitchers that cashed in. You know what I mean? Blake Snell gone. I mean, you still got a good chunk of the rotation in the bullpen there, but some bullpen pieces are gone, and you're gonna have to fill some holes in the lineup too. So a lot of question marks there. And from what I hear, New York's got a pretty good squad there. In the AL East.
But let's be honest: if a team in the AL East is going to win, and it's not going to be my Orioles because it's not.
Well, I was going to say, I hope that's a statement. It's not going to be.
Yeah, that's the statement. It's not going to be my Orioles.
Right. There's no if before that.
Then, I mean, I'd much rather it be Toronto or Tampa.
Yeah, why not get Toronto in there? They've had a lot of promise in past few years. Get them.
I guess they're kind of Buffalo currently. Because
I was going to say, they're not allowed to play.
I would imagine they're not going to be playing in Toronto at least at the start of this season because I think the border is still closed. But we'll get to baseball. I mean, I know.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm excited.
I know trucks.
Phillies trucks are on their way here.
I would assume most teams from up north are on their way.
Yeah, all baseball equipment east of the Mississippi is headed my direction.
It is headed your way.
Headed right down here.
Clearwater.
With my scattered towns of major league affiliates.
Yeah.
Up and down the coast. So it's pretty exciting stuff.
So we'll obviously look towards the baseball season as we get a little bit closer to it. Still aiming for an April 1 opening day. So that's month and a half from now. So we're plugging along. But let's look back to this past weekend, Sean, and the team I was rooting for got it done. The team that I predicted with the under. I had Tampa and the under. So it doesn't happen a lot on this show that I actually hit both on the big target, but it happened. So I finished the year 39-37 overall. You finished the year 41-35 with the loss. So we knew you were going to pick up the win, but both of us above 500 on our picks for the year. And that's where we sit. And I think next week I want to dig back on the college football and NFL predictions from where we were from preseason and just kind of compare to what we were at.
Yeah, because I think as we rolled through it, I had Tampa going pretty far, and then I backed it down. I took them on to win the division, and then I backed them down. I didn't want them, so I backed them down, and I think I had the Chiefs though. I do. I think I had the Chiefs. I think I had Chiefs Eagles was my final. I had or something.
Yeah, I was
like
going to
that.
say, I'm pretty sure you did put the Eagles in, which I mean, it's.
Oh, you know what? I didn't because I do Eagles Chiefs every year, and I went like Eagles Ravens. I was nowhere close.
But I feel like the Chiefs were the easy one. The NFC was harder to predict. But like I think as the season went on, I really did feel like it was gonna be Tampa's to lose. Like they, especially over the last month of the regular season and then through the playoffs. And the craziest thing about the playoffs, and if you're following along with us in the live video, give us a share. Appreciate that. Get some more eyes in here on the show. I think one of the craziest things about it is if you look at this playoff year, the team that gave Tampa the biggest fits, the team that gave Tampa probably the closest thing to a loss that they got was the Washington football team back in the wild card weekend. And we had talked about that, I think, going into it, that if Tampa could get by Washington, and we wouldn't have been shocked if Washington would have pulled the upset, but we thought that Tampa had a team that looked like it was going to make a run, and obviously they certainly did. A 31-9 victory over the Kansas City Chiefs. This one was close, and then the anthem finished, and that's about all she wrote for Kansas City. Looking over just a few of the stats and a couple of the ones that I highlighted that I think were really one of the big things, Sean, that made the difference in this game. Patrick Mahomes sacked 3 times for 37 yards. Tom Brady sacked only once for 6. Of course, the 2 turnovers by Mahomes on the interceptions. No turnovers by the Buccaneers. And then penalties. Now this is one that obviously garnered a lot of headlines on Sunday. 4 penalties for the Buccaneers, 39 yards, 11 for the Kansas City Chiefs for a total of 120 yards. Obviously, those some big yardage penalties in the first half with some pass interferences. And a lot of people, are not the biggest fans of Tom Brady over the course of his career. We're very quick to kind of go, the referees are in the bag for Brady. They want Brady to win.
When there's smoke, James.
It's 31-9 though. Like, I mean, what now? The one in the end zone before the touch, that should have been a holding, not a pass interference. There was nothing else. Now, have I seen some of those calls not be called in the regular season? Sure. But I've also seen things that are less be called. So, like, there's no secret the NFL has an officiating problem. And we've discussed that ad nauseum on this show year after year after year. There's no questioning that the NFL has an issue when it comes to officiating consistency and, just, right or wrong, what have you. But I think the call to, they're just in it for Brady it's just kind of lazy. I mean, I did look back on the season. The Kansas City Chiefs were the 4th most penalized team in the NFL. So this isn't like that they were.
Well, yeah. Well, and their defensive backs do have a kind of a track record of
right.
holding and things, and they found themselves in some kind of shootout games, both in spite of it and because of it. But it the one that stood out to me was there was the Honey Badger interception that they called a defensive holding on the play. And when you watched it back, now this isn't necessarily like for Brady thing, but it would have been a big turnaround, and it wasn't quite at the score there.
Sure.
But it was an up the field official with like some people in his way through the flag. It was kind of one of those questionable, and it's kind of a big turner because when Matthew makes that interception, I'm like, okay, turn it around, and you get a chance to do something. And that one caught my eye. The other one that like I can see why it was called was kind of the Mike Evans down the sidelines, and at first glance it looked like he got hit pretty good, and fell to his stomach. The throw was questionably catchable. I mean, I know it landed close enough to assume it was catchable, mostly because Mike Evans is a freak of nature.
Exactly. You got to take into account the athleticism of the
when
receiver.
They showed the replay, it was actually very minimal contact. It happened pretty early, and I think it definitely, when you took a second look at it, you could tell Evans realized he wasn't getting there and just kind of
Evans
it to flop. Yeah, and
Evans,
it was
Evans
pretty bad.
felt the touch of his feet,
and he's like, "I'm going down."
But here's the thing too, and that's positional awareness by Mike Evans, because that referee's in front of him. So all he's going to see is a defensive back going down, and then he goes
Mike Evans going down, right?
And at that angle, and people, that's another thing that when we're watching games from the angle that we're watching it, is very different. We talked about this back in the Chiefs Browns game with the helmet to helmet, and the angle that side judge was at. Same situation. You're in a position on the field where you're looking at Mike Evans. So you see a defensive back go down. And here's the thing, like, I know guys who have played defensive back in high school and college.
Sure.
And they are told, if you are going down, take the receiver down. Now, it's a little different in college and high school. It's only 15 yards. But still.
Well, yeah, in college and high school, it's like if you
take Evans down there, that's a spot foul. I don't think it was super down. I don't think it was like super. Obviously,
it was in the red zone. I know that.
But it still saves a touchdown, gives your defense an opportunity to make a stop. But if you let him run free, then that's possibly 6. So, from that angle, again, Evans made the smart play. On replay, was it quote unquote questionable? Sure. But the bottom line is here, if you look at this game, a couple of calls in the first half aren't the difference. Like, yes, was the one, and now granted, the one on the Matthews interception, yeah, I mean, that's obviously it changes the game because the Bucs still have the ball, they go down and score. But would the Chiefs have scored, would have gone 3 and out. But by all accounts, looking over the rest of the game, the Chiefs probably don't score a touchdown. I mean, no guarantee the Bucs get one back, but the game was 31-9. And what had happened in this game is what I thought could happen with the injuries that the Chiefs had on the offensive line. Is the Buccaneers defense, credit in the entire world goes out to them, because they dominated at the line of scrimmage. They got in Mahomes' face, but also, and I think this is probably as critical to anything, because as we learned from, I think it was a graphic I saw on Bleacher Report, Patrick Mahomes ran for almost 500 yards in this game to escape the pressure from the Bucs defense. And I'm not saying he runs that much in a normal game, but he moves around, and he usually finds Tyreek Hill, who's running around like a madman, and they're able to make these crazy plays. The Bucs defense did a spectacular job at making sure that those type of plays did not happen. So, you want to talk about penalties and swings of games and all this, but the first thing that I think should be done when you're talking about Super Bowl 55 is giving the credit in the entire world to that Buccaneers defense and their coaching staff to prepare themselves and do what they had to do to contain that Chiefs offense.
Oh, yeah, and I know it's not physically possible, but, and there was really hard to believe a scenario where the Buccaneers were going to win with that score and not give it to an MVP to Tom Brady. And obviously coaches can't win MVPs, but I think there's an argument to be made, at least a shout out to him for Todd Bowles, who threw together a phenomenal defensive game plan. Do I think that some of their success falls on the Chiefs' inability to get creative, which was baffling to me a little bit? I felt in the first quarter, when the game was still well in hand, well endowed, and obviously could have been anybody's game. The Chiefs were doing a really great job of, they were moving the pocket and using extra blockers and factoring in a tight end to kind of mask and control the situation as kind of an awareness of, hey, we do have some holes here, but we're going to get creative and move it around. And I just kind of thought as the game went along, I don't know what Andy was doing. I don't know if they just didn't have time to get creative, if there were more injuries than I was aware of, but it didn't feel as creative, and it didn't feel. Now this game is 30-9. Great job defense. Blah blah blah. There's obviously 2 very impressive plays, and people are posting about him with Pat Mahomes all over the place. There were 2 throws where he was essentially horizontal, making shortstop throws to first base, except that first base was 40 yards away. and he hit two receivers in their face without a catch. And one of those should have been a Tyreek touchdown that would have been the first touchdown of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And that sets up a whole different ball game. Obviously very different playing in front of a home crowd with the lead and playing in front of the home crowd without one. So that sets that one up. And the other one, I don't remember if it was Hardman or Pringle or who got hit in the face on that.
I think it was Hardman.
But man, it's kind of one of those, and I don't know. When you look at some of the statistics, like the fact that through three quarters, Pat Mahomes was still kind of at a point where he had as many rushing yards as passing yards, was just baffling. And I don't know if Tyreek Hill was taken out of the game like just by safeties, but I thought late in the game they tried to get him some underneath stuff, and I'm like, you should have done that way before this.
Yeah,
they had to get the ball in his hands more. And Kelsey was hot, so why not? Keep feeding him. But I just thought it was a really strange offensive performance, especially with a struggling defense. I don't know. I think the Chiefs' offense lends itself well to being, obviously to being a deep threat. But I don't know. With that kind of speed, you can easily do underneath stuff and hope it breaks. I just was kind of disappointed that didn't happen.
Yeah, even early on though, like Kelsey was dropping passes. It was just a very uncharacteristic game for the Chiefs offense. And I mean, you're going to have those games. Unfortunately,
you don't want it to be this one. Yeah.
No, they had it on the biggest stage, which is never good, but it's going to happen. There are going to be times when things don't click and things just don't work out. And again, missing three starters on the offensive line, including your left tackle, against this defense is never gonna bode well for the Kansas City Chiefs. I also wonder too, and I mean they kind of glazed over it, and I get why, but you have to wonder too if obviously the situation with Andy Reid's son didn't play into it in some degree, just with preparation and guys' minds being elsewhere. I mean, Andy's a big family guy. He's had tragedies in his family in the past, and you got to wonder if that didn't play into it as well. The Chiefs definitely did not look like their normal selves. But Super Bowl 55 in the books, 31-9 again in favor of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, and Jason Pierre-Paul Shaq Barrett had himself a game, but Pierre-Paul was everywhere. Of course, picking up his second Super Bowl ring, so like one for each finger he has left, which is pretty great. There will never be a time that I don't find Jason Pierre blowing up his hand and making jokes.
No,
it's funny. You can make fun of that immediately next day. Like, there's no waiting. There's no too soon.
Because
the guy was a buffoon.
You should know to not play with fireworks.
A professional athlete who is better with your hands than without. What if it had blown off your arm?
Right. Or
or a leg
killed you.
or exploded you dead.
You know what I mean? Like, you're
worth way too much to yourself and to other people, at the very least monetarily.
Right.
Like, maybe you're worth nothing to yourself, and if that's the case, call someone. But if you're at least worth a lot of money at the very base, and you have a skill set that people would probably stab someone in the heart to have. So, like, stop doing stupid things. If there's one, maybe he should go out there and be like, stop doing stupid things. Put both rings on both fingers. Go out there and be like, I could get more, but what's the point?
I mean, he was.
This state could use some coaching. There's fireworks for. I'm pretty sure there's going to be fireworks for Valentine's Day. There's fireworks all year.
Probably. I mean, but he did great. He came off the sideline, gave guys a high 3.5. It was really a great scene for Jason Pierre-Paul on the sideline. Was there any commercials, Sean, that you? Is there one that you enjoyed the most before we talk?
Well, there's one that blew up, and it was a really late commercial. But there's one that's been blowing up on Twitter, and it was like the stunt double State Farm commercial with like
Drake
Paul
from State
Rudd.
Farm?
It was like Paul Rudd as Pat Mahomes, and like the Rodgers double check guy as Aaron Rodgers, and they were like angry about it. And then it was Drake from State Farm, was Jake from State Farm, which was hilarious because he's one of the few people to walk on that screen, more Jack than Jake from State Farm. And I thought that one was really great. The one that slipped under the radar, I haven't heard anybody talk about, was the Bud Light commercial where they brought back like
Bud Light Legends?
Bud Light legend.
Dude,
and
I love Bud Light Legends.
Put it together. And Dr. Galakowitz was there. And and Yes, I Am. And it was.
You had the Bud Bowl bottles.
Everyone. It was amazing.
The Real American Hero guy singing. You had the Dilly Dilly.
Oh, yeah.
guy.
The lead singer from Survivor.
Right.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Dude, I love that. And I think
and it made me remember Real Men of Genius. And you know what? This week I'm going to have to watch, if there's anybody listening to this that doesn't remember the Real Men of Genius Bud Light ads, just go on YouTube and check it out. You'd be surprised how long the collection of those actually is, because there was a couple dozen of them. Yeah,
there's so many of them. It's
all hilarious.
Yes. Yeah, that was a great callback. They were talking about that.
Really bad to pay wherever, that guy.
They were talking about it on Howard Stern, and they were they didn't get it, but it's if you don't pay attention to Bud Light and don't watch and remember, then you won't get it, because it was a callback to so many of the great ones. I did like.
Here's to you, really bad toupee wearer.
The Will Ferrell one was really good.
Yeah, that was pretty good. There was some disappointing. There were a couple kind of more heartfelt, attempts, which was cute. I was a big fan of was it DoorDash or one of them doing the homage to restaurant workers.
Yeah, with the Sesame Street.
Right. Yeah. Well, it was that one, and then it was that one I liked. I liked the Sesame Street one, but I thought they were any of the ones where those commercials, those DoorDash companies are we're here to support local businesses, but they also charge 30% delivery fees.
Yeah, I was gonna say
businesses.
It sounds good. It sounds good.
But for a few $1 million, you can convince America you care.
Yeah.
So
the M&Ms, the sorry one that was in the first quarter.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
That one I liked. The lemons, the Bud Light seltzer lemons, where it was raining lemons.
Okay, that one had its moments. I was what is happening here? And then I watched the guy get drilled in the face.
Yeah.
I'm this is worth it. I'll watch that all day.
And the other ones were the Rocket Mortgage, the Tracy Moore, the Pretty Sure.
Pretty sure, yeah.
The difference between Pretty Sure and Absolute.
I'm pretty sure we'll make it.
Yeah. Those were pretty good. So those were
a couple big names that arrived in some commercials. Had a couple of those. Wasn't there one with I'm trying to remember if it was a Patrick Stewart or so. There was one with one of the big sci-fi names was in there, and I don't know. I thought as a whole it was kind of a down year, but when you have a couple major companies, I thought the Matthew McConaughey Doritos 3D was entertaining enough.
Yeah,
it was very predictable, because I'm he's going to go in that machine and he's going to expand.
Yeah, I got my hands on some of those, the 3D Doritos, and they are delicious.
Yeah, I remember them from
Spicy Ranch. The Spicy Ranch are amazing.
3D Doritos. There's a lot of people in a lot of arcades and
they're
on
very
a lot of Xboxes that are very excited that that's back. And if Code Red's still available by the bottle, break out your old Xbox.
I believe it is. I believe you can still get Code Red by the.
Throw in the Halo. Put in 3D Doritos. You'll be fine. Now you can get stuffed crust from anywhere. Just have yourself a party.
But before we close the book on this Super Bowl and this football season, one of the things talked about on social media and sports media and stuff yesterday, and immediately following the game, all of a sudden they've changed from, is Tom Brady the greatest of all time? Because I think we know the answer to that question. It is a resounding yes. You may not like him, but Tom Brady is the winningest franchise in the NFL.
Yeah, so, and he you didn't really, I don't know if I really put it together until it was happening, but he actually, by leaving New England to do number 7, pulled that off. Because if he'd have done it in New England, then he would have 7. So would New England.
So would New England. But now he has 7.
but now he is 7 by himself going on 8, and, I don't know. You look at all the weapons and the pieces that came in, and, you ask yourself, is this the greatest accomplishment of his career? Probably, minus the first year. We talked about that before. More impressively, I wish, I was trying to throw some, take some guesses at touchdowns and who's going to score what and when, and did not have Gronk scoring 2. Probably should have.
Yeah, that one. When he hit him with the first one, it was like
touchdowns at Gronk, Antonio Brown. The payout on that would have been pretty decent.
It's all former Patriots. Antonio Brown was a Patriot for like 3.5 quarters, so technically,
it's true. Yeah, it's true. It happened.
But like the discussion I saw change, it has kind of morphed from, is Tom Brady the greatest of all time, to, is Tom the greatest? And I've seen it worded different ways, like best athlete ever, best professional athlete ever.
Like now you're trying to stack him outside of
like
football.
Best team sport athlete ever. So I did pose the question, and is he the greatest professional athlete of all time? Like, I guess it depends how exactly you define or look at athlete. Yeah, are you saying athlete by definition, which is like, like
is he going against Michael Phelps?
Right.
Like, would be my question. Like, are we going against individual athletes?
Because like the definition of athlete, and I want to pull it up here because like the way it's worded, he probably is. But like, to me, athlete is more athleticism, and Tom Brady is not the most athletic, because it says the definition of athlete is a person who is proficient in sports and other forms of physical exercise. So like, in terms of team sports,
here's the thing: like, saying Tom's not athletic.
I'm not saying that.
It's a bit understatement. Tom is way more athletic than I think people give him credit for. Because for one thing, there's 2 forms of athleticism. There's the Lamar Jackson, Michael Vick school of athleticism, which is just raw physical ability, speed, quickness, jumping ability. You get into guys like Randy Moss with the speed and the jumping ability. Those kind of things. Tom Brady is not at the top of even his position in those things. But there's also a level of athleticism, which is having your entire body in shape to the level where, he's played how many years? He's 43.
Well, he's
been in the league 2 decades.
Yeah, 20 years.
So, and he had the one fluke knee injury in a week 1 with a shoulder or a helmet to the front of the leg, which would probably snap anyone's leg. And beyond that, he has nowhere in his career where he's missed large sections of games. I don't even know if he's missed games. Beyond that, I know he's missed parts of games for a hand or an elbow, and Lord knows he was always questionable with a shoulder. But like, that's just the Patriots being the Patriots. And he's gone 2 decades at 43 years old, has fewer injuries than probably players half his age, and is really never in question going to really put himself in scenarios where that happens. Some of it's being smart. Some of it's just being able to take licks. Tom Brady, the second highest sacked quarterback in the history of the NFL, by the way, mostly because of longevity, behind Brett Favre, of all people, most sacked quarterback in NFL.
Well, Favre played more than any quarterback ever.
Well, and Brady's taking his licks, man. It's not like he's spent every season on his feet. And even if you're getting penalties called on other teams, if you think they're against teams that don't have Tom Brady on them, he's still taking those hits.
Right.
And he just gets back up and he goes back to the huddle. And
that's the thing. He's the most sacked, but I would also say he also takes hits that aren't sacks. Like, what I mean? So if he's the second most sacked ever, think of the number of times he's been knocked down.
Yeah.
Outside of that, a couple of responses, like, and I think a couple people were kind of saying, what we're saying is like, it's hard to use the same and different criteria for different sports. But Tom Brady is arguably the greatest football player of all time. And the greatest quarterback of all time. That's from Jerome. Nate says he's the greatest quarterback, who's also the greatest, making his teammates better. And then Tyler says professional athlete, no. Greatest quarterback, maybe. Well, he's the greatest quarterback, Tyler. I think Tyler's the guy that was calling foul on Brady after week 1 when he threw like the 3 interceptions. So I think Tyler's just mad that Tom Brady won the Super Bowl and is just trying to find ways to. But he did go on to say, like, you know, it's hard to compare an NFL quarterback to an NHL left wing to a point guard in the NBA, which I get it. Like, and
it's impossible.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, obviously, football player is the argument. Quarterback, there really isn't one, and it's like you know, when you stack them up, obviously more rings than say a Jerry Rice or, you know, whoever you want to say the best running back or the best. Once you have your opinion of the best, then you can start to pick between them, and even that's hard to do because there's a lot of positions that are just as effective. When you look at like a position like middle linebacker. Or, you know, in a certain era of football, a very good safety like a Ronnie Lott or someone like that, you know, and there's a lot of players that didn't win, you know, so depending what your definition is, you know, a Dan Marino that didn't win or, you know, Reggie White that got one.
Yeah.
Is there really a, you know, once you've been to the play, because I think the real thing is you got to look at like, are you a team that made it to the playoffs a bunch of times? Because I've talked to you before about once that herd thins and you get to like your strongest handful of teams,
sure,
any of those teams can win on any given Sunday. So the real test to me is like, are you making championship games? Are you winning at least a playoff game every year? Are you there? Like, are you knocking on the door? Because only one team gets through the door. You know, and then, you know, Jim Kelly loses 4 Super Bowls. Is that worse than somebody sneaking through and getting one? Like, I don't really know why people, you know, I don't like to give the merit to just the rings, but Tom Brady has enough of other accolades beyond that, you know, but when you stack him up against a Wayne Gretzky, which by the way is the other sport where it's a no brainer. Like hockey to me is the other sport where it's like, yeah, not even close.
Yeah. It's Wayne.
So could you make the argument? Well, Mario Lemieux might have, you know,
right.
obviously, you know, with that he got cancer, like that's
exactly, and he had injuries and stuff like that.
But if
like
he's chasing the records, they're playing at the same time. Does Gretzky skate hard? I mean, he's a long way behind Gretzky in some of those categories. So, I mean, Gretzky just utter dominance for
Mario's probably
the same length of a career.
Mario's probably the closest thing,
probably.
To
you know, and there's different eras. Gordie Howe played for 4 decades, which is
the guy played through his 50s. Like,
yeah. You know, that can't happen anymore unless you're Jaromir Jagr.
I was going to say, Jagger's making it close. What is he, 48, 49, something like that?
Playing in Europe, wherever he's at.
If there's anybody in today's NHL that would I make a push for it, I feel like Ovechkin's that guy.
Well, he's going to need to catch somebody at this point.
Yeah, especially with these shortened seasons, and God only knows what's going to happen with the NHL.
But yeah, it's an impossible one to do. And if you're starting to throw individual accolades, he's not even the most decorated because Michael Phelps won every race he's ever been in, but too. It's
just funny how you know it they can't talk about, because every year Brady, you know, since Brady hit like his 4th, they started talking about, is he the greatest ever? Is he the greatest ever? And now he's at 7. You can't. There's no argument there.
Well,
so
that's what I was about to say.
They're just moving the post at this point.
Greatest here, most athletic there, whatever you want to give him. I don't think he cares, because when you ask the question, who's won more Super Bowls than anyone in history? It's Tom.
Yeah, and it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen again.
No.
Like, nobody's playing
individual. I mean, obviously, a couple of those teams will probably hit 7. That's no doubt. I mean, the league's going to keep going. Eventually, Pittsburgh
Steelers can get it. New England will get it.
Yeah.
Dallas, maybe.
We'll see.
You know, San Francisco. You know, those the other teams with
those
5.
teams are close, and yeah, who knows? Maybe Tampa will get there.
Yeah, I mean,
they only need 5.
That's right.
Tom plays to 50. We got a shot,
and he might. I mean, the guy's aging in reverse.
Try to win as many with Tampa as he did with New England in less time.
I did pull up here a statement from the Kansas City Chiefs on outside linebackers coach Britt Reed. He's been placed on administrative leave following last Thursday's multi-vehicle accident. We remain in the process of gathering information on the incident. We will continue to assist local authorities as requested. Our focus remains on Ariel Young and her family. We have reached out to the family to offer our support and resources to them during this difficult time, and we will continue to pray for her recovery. So Andy Reid's son there on administrative leave, which is, I mean, that's probably the best course of action based on the information that come out. So, that's a situation that's just, obviously super unfortunate. And, our thoughts go to the family of the young family, the young girl that's and I believe still in critical condition. But wrapping up Super Bowl, let's look ahead to next year, Sean. Before we go to break, the odds for next year, Super Bowl 56, are out, and I saw the NFL release the logo for the first time in years, actually putting some color back in the logo instead of just the silver monochromatic. But your favorites, and this is per DraftKings Sportsbook, the Kansas City Chiefs are your favorite to win the Super Bowl next year at plus 550. In the NFC, the Packers and Bucks are plus 900 right now. So those are your two highest out of the NFC. At plus 1200, Ravens, Bills, and Rams. Rams higher on this. I mean, obviously we talked about Stafford a week ago, but
I told you what he would do. Yeah.
49ers plus 1400, Saints plus 1700. Sean, if you had to guess who is the worst odds per DraftKings Sportsbook to win the Super Bowl next year, who do you think it is? I'll give you a hint. Two teams are at the same odds.
I would assume the Jets are one of the two.
They are not.
Okay, so they're going to assume that whoever they end up with
is going to make them better.
Okay, so it's not them. I don't think it should be Jacksonville. That would, if the Jacksonville's a lower odds than the Jets. Is Jacksonville one of the bottom two?
Jacksonville is third lowest.
Okay, so they're lower than the Jets.
I guess technically second because there's two teams tied. But the Jaguars are lower. The Jets are plus 6,600, as are the Giants and Bengals. The Jaguars are plus
well, and some of that comes into play. There's the Jaguars, there's teams that are worse. Like the Jets will have people bet on them. Like if you just make them the highest odds, it'll just be more. Like there's people in New York that are like, screw it, we'll bet on the Jets.
But yeah, the Jags are.
No one's betting on the Jags. So I'd say the Jags are low. I would say the Lions are probably one of the two. They're one of the two.
That's one.
And geez, I'm trying to think who else was that bad. It's hard to say Houston as long as Deshaun Watson's still there. I'm gonna go Houston.
It's Houston.
Yeah,
both of them are plus 10,000.
Yeah, Houston, which shows you when you have a quarterback like Watson, either A, they assume he's gone, or right. B, that team is in such shambles that there's no chance.
Which I think either is a fair assessment at this point. Yeah. With the Houston Texans, looking at some of the other ones, Browns plus 2,200, Seattle plus 2,200, Miami plus 2,500, Cowboys plus 3,000, Patriots and Steelers are plus 3,000 as well.
And just like that, Dallas is as good as the Patriots.
Yeah. I was hoping it would have been because the Cowboys actually got better, but here we are. Eagles plus 5,000 along with the Raiders, Bears, Falcons.
Plus 5,000.
Yeah. Washington and Denver are at plus 6,000.
Yeah.
They really think that Washington's going to be worse than the Eagles next year.
Well, again, when you're in good football cities and you're in cities that
right, it's not it's betting odds. It's not actual like
right. So like the Las Vegas Raiders are probably higher on a list when you factor in betting odds than they would be in an actual like analyst breakdown of where teams should rank.
Right.
Because Vegas is like, well, we'll bet on Vegas. Bet on my home team, even though we've never had a home team and they're from Oakland. Woo!
Colts, despite not having a quarterback currently, are plus 2,800 with the Chargers and the Titans.
I think they just assume that at worst case, Brissett's fine. And they're just assuming they're landing someone, even if it's a Sam Darnold. Yeah. But I thought that was interesting. And we talked about commercials earlier, and then pointing out Brady sticking around in Tampa made me think of it. I don't think they allowed it to be aired, but did you see the T-Mobile Brady Gronk?
Yes,
commercial.
my wife showed that to me because
Where it was just like the one they had in the Super Bowl, where it's like, I'm going to explain myself, and then it's like bad coverage. This is what they actually heard.
that one was,
And it's
real
literally
good.
Brady telling, or Gronk telling Brady, like,
Dude,
just
be
retire,
retired.
come to Florida. You will hang out and like, be in the sand. And like, it's great, man. You get, and like when they edited
Relax.
it, you heard it was like, come to Florida, win another one. Like, yeah,
I'll come
like,
with you.
I'll come with you. Yeah. And so then he goes to his press conference and announces Gronk will be coming back. And
Yeah, that one.
it was a pretty good one. And I'm not really sure what allegiances were broken or what rules were stepped upon, but I think the NFL shot that one down.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think that you can necessarily put that one on the Super Bowl, but I want to remind or let everybody know, if you didn't see it on our social media page before we run to commercial here, our merchandise store is now open. If you go to whatamaneuver.net, you will find the Huddle Up podcast page there. Go to our social media; it's under the link tree. It's on the pages today. So go over there. You get t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, long sleeve tees, get baby onesies, all sorts, women's t-shirts, everything right there. So make sure you go check that out. We'll have some new designs coming soon as well, but go ahead and grab the merchandise. And Sean, we're going to pause now to hear from our sponsor and our home network. And on the other side, we're going to talk a little more NFL and then talk about the National Hockey League and their COVID problems. So stick with us. Huddle Up Live.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Huddle Up Podcast is sponsored by Arena Eats. Log on to the website arenaeats.app, that's arenaeats.app, for the ultimate fan experience. At your favorite sports venue, Arena Eats mobile app, pre-order, express pickup, and in-seat delivery. How do you place your order? You're listening to NGSC Sports Radio. Hear us live on ngscsports.com, where you can get awesome analysis on all things sports. Or check out our podcasts on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, and much more. For our latest videos, subscribe to NGSC Sports YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter at NGSC Sports, and like us on Facebook. NGSC Sports. We never stop. Welcome back, Huddle Up Live. We are here, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Make sure you're subscribed to us on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter at Huddle Up Podcast, and we are on Instagram at Huddle Up Pod. Make sure you subscribe to the show and let everybody know about it. If you have a sports fan in your life, let them know. Make sure they check out the show and tell a friend, and continue to grow the audience here each and every week. And I don't know if we'll get a show every single week as we come out of the football season and with less things going on, but we'll probably get every other week at worst over the course of the NFL offseason. Keep things going here on the podcast side. But along with Super Bowl weekend, Sean, of course, every year is the NFL awards. And
sure.
And running, from the regular season and running down the list. There's definitely one that I want to talk about because I think it's crazy. Not the guy who won it, but the nature in which he won it. But if there's any that you think are wrong, feel free to speak up as I run down the list here. Pepsi Rookie of the Year was Los Angeles Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert.
Would have had that one right. Yeah, that one I would have had.
I feel like Joe Burrow probably would have had a say in it had he not suffered the injury. But yeah, Herbert coming in when he did, I think that was the right one. AP Defensive Player of the Year, Rams defensive lineman Aaron Donald.
Did you hear that there's reports that initially when the Lions offered, were working out a trade for Stafford, that they wanted Donald in the deal?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, that was apparently a thing. And I'm like, well, you better hope to give up a first-round pick then. Instead of getting
my God,
Stafford and a first-round pick for Goff and Aaron Donald, we are getting somewhere. But yeah, that apparently that was who they wanted. Wound up with Goff instead.
Yeah, good luck with that. AP Offensive Rookie of the Year again, Los Angeles quarterback Justin Herbert. AP Offensive Player of the Year, Titans running back Derrick Henry. Yeah, hard to argue against him. AP Defensive Rookie of the Year, Washington defensive end Chase Young. I think that's a fair one.
I would say that's pretty good.
Art Rooney Sportsmanship Award, Carolina Panthers quarterback Teddy Bridgewater. This is the one that, again, not the guy who won it, but the nature in which he won it. The AP Comeback Player of the Year, Washington quarterback Alex Smith.
Which we boldly predicted.
49 out of 50 votes. One vote went to Ben Roethlisberger. Like, okay.
From the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette.
Shocking.
Like, I don't know who voted for him, but I can guess what city he lives in.
Like, I get it. Ben's an older guy. He had the wrist injury, the elbow, forearm, whatever the hell it was.
Had some things going wrong.
Had surgery.
Typical football ailments.
Like, I get it. And in a normal year, maybe he should.
Yeah, get a couple votes at least.
Get a couple of votes.
Not when a guy survives near death.
Right. Like, Alex Smith literally almost lost his leg. He literally almost lost his life. And not only does he return to the field, the minute that he was cleared to play and on an active roster,
and was on a roster and throwing passes before a game.
To me, comeback
player of the year.
Then he comes into a game, comeback player of the year, becomes a starter, comeback player of the year, leads his team to the playoffs. Now, granted, yes, in the
no outside scenario. Let's not talk semantics. He comes in a scenario where he's not mathematically eliminated, gets named the starter, and wins enough games to still not be mathematically eliminated and get in.
And that's in Washington. How bad has Washington been for how many years? One of the worst. I mean, we can talk about teams that are poorly run. Like that's, there's no mystery to teams that are poorly run.
We have talked several times about teams.
Washington has been a terribly run organization for countless years.
Still are.
Maybe a little better because you at least have a good head coach and a solid foundation. But leads the Washington football team, a team without a nickname, to the playoffs. And almost
should call themselves the Washington Alex Smiths.
Now, granted, he didn't play, but they gave the eventual Super Bowl champion their hardest fight. Now, granted, it's a regular season award, but like this, first off, this award should no longer be AP Comeback Player of the Year award. This should be AS Comeback Player. This should be the Alex Smith.
Smith award.
But to the
which, by the way, I didn't point it out earlier, but that like Tampa Bay almost losing to Washington is like there was like a couple really key defensive players that like either were just coming back or were out for that game, and they got healthy as the playoffs went on, and it became more and more dangerous. So you were right. Getting past Washington was a big step.
Yeah, and that's why
it's not necessarily saying
Washington is a better team,
better than the other three.
But on Wild Card Weekend, there was certainly a case to be made that Washington could have pulled the upset, and they almost did. So, but yeah, they obviously Tampa Bay a better team. But yeah, just the absolutely asinine to vote anybody but Alex Smith this year for that award.
Somebody should break that guy's leg.
Exactly. Bridgestone Clutch Performance Play of the Year. Hail Mary TD pass from Kyler Murray to DeAndre Hopkins.
No doubt.
Yeah, the Deacon Jones Award, Pittsburgh Steelers pass rusher TJ Watt. Bud Light celebration of the year is the Steelers celebrating Chase Claypool touchdown.
Yeah, okay.
Without
That's
looking at a video, I wouldn't know which one that is. AP Coach of the Year, Cleveland
I
Browns
bet
head
the guy
coach.
that voted for Roethlisberger also voted for that touchdown.
That's probably a pretty good guess. AP Coach of the Year, Cleveland Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah, it was Coach of the Year was when we debated, and like I knew the Browns coach was going to be but I just felt like the Browns weren't that far. Like I feel like what the Bills did, I still feel like, in my opinion, could you have given it to an Arians or a Reed? Yes. Could you have given it to a?
I don't think you give it to Reed. Like they were that.
Well,
team,
yeah, but I mean, arguably, if you're going regular season and you're going Coach of the Year.
I always
Andy Reid lost one game. I mean, they had 2 losses, but the second one was like whatever.
I always look at Coach of the Year more. I mean, now
Andy Reid's had some.
Yeah, but I mean, if Kansas City would have went undefeated, I think maybe you have a better.
They had 1 loss
to come off of a Super Bowl.
1.
They had 1, but you also look at the rest of the league. Cleveland, they've bounced through head coaches, and
to me like it was going to be Cleveland. It wasn't going to be Cleveland, and I think I picked McDermott in Buffalo. I thought that was an incredible performance, or even LaFleur in Green Bay, because we had some pretty big name sports talk personalities like the fella at Huddle Up podcast that thought that the Packers were going to crumble into the ground, and Aaron Rodgers was going to have an awful year, be traded by week 4.
Traded by mid-season.
And LaFleur pulled it together. I didn't know what it was going to look like. I just didn't see anybody else in that division doing super well. And I was like, why not ride Aaron Rodgers and hope they put it together? And they did. And I thought they were a well-run team. It was creative. It reminded me a little bit of like early McVay Rams creativity on offense. But you still saw a good mesh and where Aaron Rodgers was allowed to make some calls on the field. I think they kind of worked out their differences, and as long as the 2 of them are both there next year, and some pieces around them, which it doesn't look like Aaron Jones will be, but they have some other pieces. I think they're going to be fine.
I mean, running backs are running backs. The other one I would have thought should have been considered for it, and maybe based on record, he didn't get it, is Ron Rivera for taking Washington from what they were and turning them into a playoff team in one season. Like. Because, the Browns have been putting a team together. Rivera comes in, same as Stefanski, because his first year.
I would argue the Dolphins made borderline the same turnaround. They just weren't in a division that was crumbling in around them. Unfortunately for them, Buffalo was growing faster, but Miami was right there. Yeah, and I'm not.
The rest of their division crumbling around them.
I guess, but New England was right there. They finished ahead of New England, I think, didn't they? They were at one time. I feel like the end of the season kind of fell apart.
Yeah, they did.
It's a shame they still have no idea who their quarterback is, despite it.
Right, and I think that's part is when you kind of juggle around.
Meanwhile, Ryan Fitzpatrick's like, would somebody just hand me the gloves?
Right. But I think Rivera had a strong case as well.
I mean, why not? Why not have a case? It's pretty impressive. But Pete Carroll didn't, and that's the real moral of the story. That's the real
beautiful thing.
Glory in kind of in the backbone of holding this whole award up is the fact that Pete Carroll is still garbage.
Yes. And if you believe what Russell Wilson talked about on Dan Patrick this morning, and potentially some of the words out of there, is Russell Wilson may not be under center in Seattle next year.
He's so upset if he's not going to get, and I was going to talk about it at some point if it came up, but, I alluded to Tom being the second most sacked quarterback. Russell Wilson is quickly climbing that list.
Yeah.
There's only like 3 or 4 active quarterbacks ahead of him in the top 10, but he's like near the top 10. And what was the number? I had it ready to go. Give me a sec. So the active quarterbacks ahead of him: Roethlisberger, Rodgers, Rivers, no longer active, Alex Smith, Drew Brees, and Matt Ryan, all of which are coming into the last few steps of their career. Now, Tom Brady and Brett Favre. Tom Brady will if he plays next year, will pass Brett Favre. Brett Favre's at 525 sacks in his career. Tom Brady 521. Next closest is Roethlisberger at 516. Could he finish at the top? Maybe, if he comes back. But no one else is going to get those. Next closest is Rodgers at 468. Russell Wilson is currently sitting at 20th all time. He's 32 years old.
Jesus.
And has been sacked 394 times. So he's really only 120 odd sacks behind Brett Favre, who played until he was like 45.
Yeah.
At 32 years old. His per season stat, and the Dan Patrick show, you're right, broke it down in the short amount of time I got to listen to them. And it was literally like, if Russell Wilson plays and the same pace happens, he'll pass Brett Favre before the end of 2 seasons from now.
Not good.
He'll be 34 when he sets the all-time sack mark.
I think Dan asked him the question.
And the thing is, he might not be playing. He might be dead if he takes that many sacks.
Let me see if I can find the actual
real amount of sacks.
But Dan asked him if if I think basically like will he be in Seattle? And he had said, well, I guess if he's gonna be traded or be part, and he said, I'm not sure if I'm available or not. It's a Seahawks question. So clearly there's a rift in the relationship up there.
Yeah, but that's a real neutral answer too.
It is. It certainly is. But like, it's a situation worth monitoring. Do I think he'll be under center? I do.
Yes.
But
he's all that.
Well, yeah, but I just he's clearly not happy. Or at least frustrated with taking the number of hits.
Maybe the answer is just letting Seattle just accept the fact that they should just be like a shotgun, run and gun, shoot 'em up team instead of pretending you have a running game for 3 quarters and then being like, Russell, go win a game. You know what I mean? There's a lot of scenarios where it's like run, and it's like Mike Tomlin's offense, like run, pass, and then it's like third down. They know they're throwing, so the odds are greater.
Let's round out the awards, and then we'll talk about the
Hammer. Let's move on to some other sports. That's the last topic I have.
DraftKings breakout daily fantasy player of the year, Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen.
Boom.
Fan of the year, Tennessee Titans fan Brandon Galloway.
Okay.
Way
to go, Brandon.
I'd have to look more into that one to figure out what that's about. AP most valuable player, Green Bay quarterback Aaron Rodgers.
No doubt.
And the Walter Payton NFL man of the year, Seattle Seahawks quarterback Russell Wilson. So those are your NFL award for the year. I feel like they got them pretty much right.
Mostly right. Yeah. I mean, there's some weird ones that I was like, maybe I'd have picked someone else, but I didn't even know that was an award. But yeah, all the big ones I think I hit pretty well.
All right, and then finally, Sean, NFL Super Bowl weekend always brings up the Pro Football Hall of Fame class. This year's inductees, first-timers on the ballot, wide receiver Calvin Johnson, quarterback Peyton Manning, defensive back Charles Woodson. Don't think there's really any argument against those three getting in.
Despite a really weird handful of voices there. If you ever heard that trio talk, very strange. Be an awkward podcast if the three of them were ever.
It would. I don't know if you haven't checked out Peyton's Places on ESPN.
Oh, it's great.
It is so good. We are finally digging through it.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing.
And if you like the style of quarterback or of comedians in cars getting coffee, but you love football, it's
like
that
kind of whimsical.
It's so
well-written comedy with the Peyton Manning Southern drawl. But much like in the Cars with Coffee, it's tied in by Seinfeld's love of cars. This is Peyton's love of football.
I think my two favorite episodes so far, we only got through about halfway through season 1, is the wide receiver episode where he's throwing the ball trying
to recreate the catch down in Bryant Park, which, by the way, a friend of ours, Tim Callahan, who's definitely not listening to this podcast, not a sports guy, but he got married in that park. That's where we were at for the wedding. All the photographs from his wedding.
No shit.
Right at the Bryant Park Grill there, rented out the building, married on the rooftop there, overlooking the park. So we were right there, like the whole weekend.
I really like the one with the Kickers when he went to Vinatieri and had the old marching band. So definitely a fun watch. But rounding out the rest of the class, offensive lineman Alan Faneca, head coach Tom Flores, safety John Lynch, scout Bill Nunn.
Yeah, the bay down here pretty jacked.
I would say so.
Get a world championship.
Like
John
your
Lynch,
GM or
a
something.
loved guy down here. They love John Lynch.
Oh my God!
Why wouldn't you? He's a stand-up
He's part
guy.
of the
He was
reason
great at what he did.
they won their first Super Bowl.
To tear the head off of people's shoulders. Very different game today. But yeah, good for him. So far, no one I would question on that.
And then finally getting in wide receiver Drew Pearson from the Dallas Cowboys. So definitely long overdue for him. It seems weird, and I'm not comparing Drew Pearson all time to Calvin Johnson, because I think Calvin Johnson plays out his career. He's probably going down as top 5, top 3 wide receivers ever to play the game.
Yeah, because you had a physical specimen, a point of the catch guy up there with a Randy Moss.
Yeah.
But he was also a hardworking, Jerry Rice-esque route runner. And it was a weird combination, and that's why nobody wanted to defend him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why no one could. So it was, it was good to see him get in, because I've been defending Calvin in a lot of circles. But as far as getting in,
it's such an interesting juxtaposition to see a wide receiver, get on his first ballot, and a guy like Drew Pearson, who should have, by all accounts, been in years ago.
Probably, yeah.
I feel like he's very similar to Art Monk. Art Monk was a wide receiver.
Took forever.
That took forever to get in. And I get when you're in the era just before what really became the flashy worldwide NFL, unfortunately they're going to get overlooked, and it's going to continue to happen because now it's the offensive juggernauts and stuff like that. They're going to start really piling in and getting in. But Peyton, Charles Woodson, Calvin Johnson, to me, all were definite first timers. It would have been wrong if they wouldn't have gotten in on their first go. So definitely happy for them. Now we looked to next year. There's a handful of guys that will be on the ballot for the first time next year, and see if any of these jump off the page at you, Sean, for guys that should definitely get in.
Yeah, because I haven't looked into it, so this will be the first time seeing these names.
So it's linebacker DeMarcus Ware, wide receiver Devin Hester, wide receiver Steve Smith Sr., linebacker Robert Mathis, defensive tackle Vince Wilfork, and then wide receivers Andre Johnson and Anquan Bolden are your notable first time ballot.
What was the first name? You said it was
Marcus Ware.
Marcus Ware. I don't know that he jumps off the page. I mean, the good news for a lot of the guys that are on their second, third, fourth, maybe go around that are trying to get in, this might be a great year. I think of the names you said, 2 of the wide receivers jump out. I would say a Steve Smith probably jumps out ahead of everyone else for me, despite the fact I think Andre Johnson was a much more physically gifted wide receiver. Andre Johnson, also a very liked individual, gave a lot back to the community of Houston, all over the country. He used to do that. I think he still does. At Christmas time, does the Walmart pays off a bunch of layaway at Walmart. Yeah, and he helps out a lot of inner city families and things. So I think that's great. I'd have no problem with him getting in. I just would have to look at the numbers on Andre Johnson as far as longevity. I feel like he was hurt a lot. Struggled to finish seasons, especially late in his career. I'd be curious where he stacks up on some of these lists. But Steve Smith was incredibly dominant. He was a different style of wide receiver. He kind of led the way for some of these smaller guys that were just kind of, and I'm not saying it was like a Wes Welker-esque, because he didn't play that style of position, but he kind of told smaller guys, you can be a 1 or 2, play on the outside, play on the inside, play wherever you want. You're just going to have to work hard to do it. And he used to have to be tenacious. A lot of people said he was a dirty player, but I think doing what he did at his size had to be. So he jumps out to me as the one that I would probably give a first-year vote to. Some of those other defensive, DeMarcus Ware I would have no problem with. And there was a couple other you said, but Steve Smith's the one I think to me that really jumps out of the group.
Yeah, I mean, obviously as a Cowboys fan, DeMarcus Ware.
I think of DeMarcus Ware as a Bronco, because it's just the last thing I saw.
It's where he won a Super Bowl, but I mean, he was spectacular as a Cowboy.
Tom will tell you that's what counts.
And and his longevity, at that position, his dominance at that position. Is he a slam dunk first timer? I don't think he is.
Probably not.
I think he'll get in. I don't think there's any
not this year in the future. Absolutely, yeah.
I don't think there's a question really
and
on
maybe this class that I really didn't see a lot of jump. Maybe that's his best shot. Maybe it was a good time to be a first ballot.
But like, I think
People like
all of
voting
these
first
guys,
ballot.
I think all of these guys will definitely get in. Like,
Probably,
but you know, if I had to pick one from that list, for first timers, it would also probably be Steve Smith as well. I mean, he was just so good and dominant, and the fact
for so long,
and he was so little too. Like, I think that, like, you know, in an era and a position
I'd
where
be curious. I want to look up sometime like, how many quarterbacks he played for.
Oh well, Jake Delhomme was there.
Jake was there for a while,
quite a while. But
I don't know if he was on the team with Kerry Collins. I don't think he was there that long ago. But he also jumped around then.
Oh, yeah, he went to Baltimore. Did he go anywhere else but Baltimore?
Maybe that was it. Maybe that was it. All right, we'll have to check him out. But that's a good list. But like you said, if there are any other guys out there like your guy that just did, you know, that are just waiting to get in, maybe they're like, oh, I'm getting overlooked.
Yeah, he only played with Carolina and Baltimore. Couple highlight: 5-time Pro Bowler, 2-time first team All Pro, second team All Pro. He was comeback player of the year. He led the league in receptions, receiving yards.
5'9"
in 2005. Yeah, and 5'9". You know, 14,000 receiving yards, 81 touchdowns. Also had some return yards and touchdowns. So, I mean,
early in his career, especially, he did a lot of that. So
that's usually what happens when you're 5'9" as a wide receiver. You usually get put as a return guy. But
ran a 4.39 40 at the NFL Combine.
That's fast.
It's pretty fast.
Pretty damn fast. I feel like he could have still ran that at the end of his career. Like, I feel like he never really slowed down that much. But finally,
in his rookie year, he just returned kicks. This was a great thing to start off a career. He was a kick and punt returner primarily, led all rookies in net yardage with 1,994 yards, and he landed 4th place among all NFL players in all-purpose yards. The three that beat him: Priest Holmes, Marshall Faulk, and Derek Mason.
Wow.
So as a rookie, mostly returning kicks and punts, those were the only 3 guys with more all-purpose yards than Steve Smith his rookie year. Not bad.
Pretty good. Pretty good start.
Stage setter, yeah.
And finally, before we close out, we talked about this, I don't know, maybe about a month or so ago when the NBA was really having a lot of issues with COVID. I mean, I think we're still seeing some cases pop up here and there, but the NBA's kind of seemed to have tightened up the ship a little bit. The NHL obviously returned to play later than the NBA and now are dealing with their own issues. I think, what is it, Minnesota, New Jersey, there's a couple other teams, the Sabres, and there's a 4th one that have pretty much been shut down for the entire week. We saw
Flyers now.
We saw the Stars at the beginning. We saw the Stars at the beginning of the season. We saw the Panthers for a little bit. You know, and now tonight's game was supposed to be the Caps and the Flyers. The Flyers have had 2 players test positive. So
it's a third. There was one originally, and so that had left everybody questionable. But then today, Giroux was added to the list.
Okay.
So Giroux tested positive, and it was 3 fairly big names tested positive there for the Flyers. Giroux, Sondheim, and Braun all currently entering the COVID-19 protocol. It said a Flyers pitcher tested positive on Monday night. Captain Claude Giroux and Travis Sondheim and Justin Braun were added. So it doesn't say, I guess, that they all tested positive.
There was a second player that tested positive today, but like also when you have close contacts, that's where you get put onto that protocols list.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
that happened with the Capitals when Samsonov, and now we found out Evgeny Kuznetsov. Well, I guess Kuznetsov, they said, never tested positive, but he had COVID-like symptoms. They were on the list for 3 weeks. Alex Ovechkin, Dmitry Orlov were on it for 4 games.
Avalanche are on that list.
Avalanche are the other ones. I think the only team so far, or at least as of the other day, that didn't have a player that had tested positive was the St. Louis Blues. So the NHL, and here's the thing, like players and teams and coaching staff, things like that, they're going to have cases in close context. We know that from the NFL. We know that from Major League Baseball. We know that from the NBA. We know that from every sport. But like, it's a huge contrast from last summer when, you know, they bubbled and you didn't have a positive test for 7 or 8 straight weeks. And now, you know, now the NHL is in a situation where they're like removing the glass behind the benches. They're trying to create more airflow. They're trying to limit the amount of time players and coaches spend in the arena, even on game day. You know, and we had talked about this leading into the season that, you know, if the NHL was going to be able to pull this off, you know, it's an indoor sport. It is a contact sport. You know, it's very different than baseball and football, which are primarily outdoor sports. You know, so we're curious of how this is going to work out. And so far it hasn't been spectacular. You've had numerous games juggled and postponed and rescheduled and things like that. And it, you know, you got to call into question and wonder, you know, is the league going to be able to finish this? Should they call a timeout for a couple of weeks and, you know, because I know, you know, they said they had kind of looked into the idea of these hybrid bubble sort of situations where, you know, a handful of teams go into a city, and they basically play there for 2 weeks, go home, and then go back, you know, play for another 2 weeks. So I think the NHL, and then I'm not, you know, obviously they have to be spending all of their waking hours at this point trying to figure this out and then make sure they can do what's right and what have you. But like the NHL has a pretty big problem on its hands right now, that they really need to get a hold of. Otherwise, you know, this season could definitely be in trouble. I think be in jeopardy. You know, the NBA, and you know, I would be maybe figuring out, and I get they're two very different sports, but I'd be making calls to the NBA going, what did you guys do to kind of get this thing under control? And maybe they already have, I don't know, but you know, I think the NHL is really in a precarious situation.
Well, and you're seeing a scenario where, you know, it's come up kind of on some broadcasts with the NFL, because the NFL was a sport that we thought was going to have a lot of positives and a lot of issues. One, because many cities were allowing fans, but also just the number of players and personnel on a sideline. And there's been a lot of people that have questioned the NFL's handling of the COVID protocols, in that, yeah, sure, like there weren't, but there were a lot of strange scenarios where it's like, oh, these guys are on the COVID list, and then like, he's a star and he might not play, and then like, well, it turns out he's fine. And I think there was a lot of scenarios in the NFL where I just kind of question, like even going into the Super Bowl where it's like no positive tests on Friday, and I'm like, are you going to test them on Saturday and Sunday? Is there a chance someone's going to run into the game and like snatch someone off the field?
Because like we know that I mean,
like it happened in the World Series where it's like, oh yeah, it turns out that guy can't play. Get him out of there. Like, do you set yourself up for that kind of thing? Or you're like, you know what? It's okay if more people get it.
Could you have imagined if that would have happened to like Brady or Mahomes?
And like, I'm just
like halfway through the second quarter, they were like,
you're checking the tests. And you're like, everybody takes the test on Saturday, and Sunday morning they're looking at him, and the name on the list as a positive is Mahomes, showing no symptoms.
Pat, how you feel, man?
I feel good. Do you just erase the name? Like, and I think that's the fear, and I think it, you know, in my opinion, is it a question I have of the NBA? Sure. Like when you all of a sudden go from
they hand the
all the time, and early in the NFL season, it was like, look what we're doing. We're quarantining. Like, we're really responsible. And like, this team might never play again. Like this team, this 4 weeks, we've had to move bye weeks. And like, was there a point when they were like, yo, we don't have any bye weeks to play with. Stop canceling damn games.
Right.
And they're like, well, what if they're like have the virus? And like, well, how bad do they, you know, like, was there like a level? And I really hope it doesn't come down to, because if they did sweep cases under the rug or erase names off a list or somehow bump people to a level, it's going to come out.
Right. You're not going to keep that on the wraps
anymore, where you're like this hub of money and owners that like just controls the bubble underneath you. And if you wanted to be that person, you would have just made everybody play in a bubble and have no fans.
Right.
But you didn't. So do I think they covered up some cases? Yes. I do think
I'm sure of it.
I think some of it happened at a team level and not necessarily an NFL level. Also, yes.
Right, like a team doctor gets a report and is like, "What's this? Is today's COVID report?"
Do I think money
Hey,
expands
Tom,
to get names off of lists?
Tom, how you feeling today? Tom, you feeling good? All right, cool.
Cool, yeah, Tom's fine.
Tom's great.
Tom's doing good. He's doing real good.
Does anybody have the COVID report for today?
Do I think there's like a weird hypothetical scenario in my brain where doctors are like bribing team players to like get their names off of a list? Like, hey, just so you know, you tested positive for this virus, but I can make that go away.
Yeah, I can accidentally bump the
or I could make it sound more serious than it is. You know, like, is there a weird? Do I think that probably happened? No, not like that. Not in my creepy Orson Welles-esque shenanigans that I just did, whatever that impersonation I was doing. Orson Welles as the Chiefs team doctor. But no, I was. But do I see a scenario where somebody was like, "Yo, I'll just give you $1,000 to cross me off that list"? Like, yeah, I could see that happening. And do I see that happening in the NBA or the NHL or any other sport? I'm not saying it's just a football thing. Sure, I could see weird shenanigans happen. I mean, Christ, one of the major sports covered up steroids for a good part of a decade. So, you know, there's some things we find out later. Hopefully this isn't one of them, but good for the NBA if they did figure it out. Good for those players if they were like, shoot, what do you mean we won't get paid? Like, maybe that's how they had to explain it.
Yeah.
Like, you won't get to play. And they're like, man, that's cool. I'll just play at my house. And they're like, no, like, you don't understand.
You're not gonna make money.
The season, you get no money. And then players were like, oh, wait, what? You know, I feel like maybe that happened in the NFL too. Maybe that was like a rookie wake up. Like, stop going out.
Yeah. And like, and I mean, here's the thing is like, you know, I had a friend that said, you know, like the NHL's to blame for, you know, for the situation with this team or that team. And I'm like, how you can't, you know, you can say that, but you're not necessarily accurate on it. Like the NHL lays out a list of like rules and protocols and whatever. Are they the best they could do? I don't know. Probably not. It's a sport that like guys literally like bang into each other and like spit on the ice and shit like that. So like, you know, maybe there's things that they could be doing better, but the bottom line is like people are responsible for themselves. Like they have to make the right choices themselves. Their families have to make the right choices. I'm like, because here's the thing, you can do everything right in the entire world. But if a person you live with doesn't make the best choices, then everything you personally do is thrown out the window. Or if the guy sitting next to you in the locker room, if their girlfriend or wife or spouse or, you know, kid or whatever is going out and making bad choices and they come back and they're close contact and they spread it to you, you know, then what you did, you know, is, you know, kind of nullified. Like I'm not sitting here saying that every person who plays in the NHL that their family should not be allowed to go out and do anything. It may be smarter to not really do anything, but like, you know, like you have to be more aware of this situation. You have to take everything into account. And really, I mean, based on what's happening around the NHL, clearly there's problems. And like, I don't think it's just a matter of the nature of a contact sport. Football is a contact sport. Baseball, guys do get close to each other. The NBA is a sport where there is close contacts throughout the game. So it's not just that. To me, it says that there are issues off the ice. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, the Washington Capitals had 4 players end up in COVID protocol because they were hanging out in a hotel room while they were on the road, and that is against league rules.
Sometimes we don't get a good word as to whether did they all test positive. Like we hear like they're in COVID protocols. And
well, what happened with the Capitals is their goalie and then Kuznetsov ended up like Samsonov tested positive, 24 years old, said he had trouble breathing and walking. So that should be a wake up call to everybody. And this guy's in like
24-year-old athlete.
A 24-year-old athlete. I'm 35-year-old and fat. Like I don't want to get this thing. But anyway, so like it was Samsonov, Kuznetsov, Orlov, and Ovechkin, the four Russians that were hanging out in a hotel room while they were on the road. Samsonov test positive. Kuznetsov had symptoms. Luckily, Ovechkin and Orlov didn't, but like that's why that rule's in place. But then you see pictures of the Tampa Bay Lightning having like a team get-together party for the Super Bowl, and I'm going because like the Caps, like they got fined and like they had 4 players on the list, and I'm going like, so like and like it's not just the players, it's like wives and girlfriends and whatever. So I'm going like, this is why there's a COVID problem in the NHL, and like why aren't they basically their whole team in COVID protocol at this point? So like I think there needs to be smarter decisions made. You know, and maybe it's something you sit down and say, look, if we don't finish this season, you're not going to get paid. That's why the AHL is currently playing, I think it's like a 38-game season with potentially no playoffs. They've already said they're not going to play for the Calder Cup. Even if there is a playoff, it's going to be shortened because there's teams who opted out. But like, these guys need to get paid too. So they're like, let's figure out a way to play. But we will obviously continue to monitor the situation with the NHL and the NBA. And as we get closer to baseball season, we will take a look at that as well. Sean, any stats or anything else to add this week before we get out of here?
I don't know about stats. I will say kind of one of my on this day things that came up. Thought it was an interesting one for you, and it's tomorrow. It's the 10th of February. But on the 10th of February, back in 1989, to gain deregulation, the WWF admitted to a New Jersey court that wrestling is an exhibition and not a sport. I'd imagine that was the coining of the term sports entertainment.
I'm sure
at that point, but it was tomorrow was the day in 1989 that happened. So that was pretty interesting. I thought also today, most interesting thing happened today. Not a lot of things on the list. The Winter Olympics added the 2-man bobsled to the Olympic list of events. That was back in the 1920s. I don't have the year in front of me, but I thought that was a pretty interesting one. Definitely happy that happened. I love watching me some bobsleigh.
Bobsled, luge, and what's the other one? Skeleton.
Yeah, luge. That's the sport that it's weird people get into it because no matter how well you do, you're still a loser. Yeah. Well, I'm a dad now, so I can get away with stuff like that.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You can get away with that one. Sean, tell people where they can follow you.
All right, I'll tell you where you can follow you as I kind of roll my way out of here. I'm going to kind of, for my video folks at home, I'm going to unveil Nicky scored himself a goal in the backyard the other day, gave it a bit of a celebration at the end, give him the arms up. He shoots, he scores. But we're going to say goodbye to you. We're saying goodbye to football season. Of course, it's a very sad day, but there are brighter days ahead. Baseball equipment's on their way here to the Tampa Bay, so hopefully we get some baseball. And let's hang in there and hope for the NHL. But either way, whatever sport you play, whatever sport you watch, be safe, be smart for the love of everything. Just put on the mask, even if you don't believe it works. Some people do, and they'll be a lot friendlier to you if you do. So keep doing that. Come check me out at Sean Shine State, SHAWN, Sean Shine State. We're here in Florida, but our heart's in Philly. Godspeed.
All right, Sean, we'll talk to you either next week or the following. Not sure when our next show will be, but you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, at Huddle Up Podcast, Instagram, we're at Huddle Up Pod. You can follow me at Big Jim Sports. Make sure you're subscribed to the show on all podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music. Check out our home network, of course, NGSC Sports at ngscsports.com. You'll hear from our sponsor, Arena Eats, here in just a second. But also make sure you head over to whatamaneuver.net. That is whatamaneuver.net. Find the Huddle Up Podcast store over there. We have one design up, and it just launched today. We have T-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, long sleeve tees, women's T-shirts, kids T-shirts, baby onesies. We got gear for the whole family. More designs will be coming here in the coming weeks. Make sure you check that out and support the show, and give us a follow and subscribe as well. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. Until next week or the next time we talk to you, please stay safe, please mask up, please stay smart, and go for the win. Huddle Up Podcast is sponsored by Arena Eats. Log on to the website arenaeats.app. That's arenaeats.app for the ultimate fan experience. At your favorite sports venue, Arena Eats mobile app, pre-order, express pickup, and in-seat delivery. How do you place your order?